Good morning, this is B. A. Nagesh, retired civil servant, MA in Political Science and Public Administration. Today, we do a topic on General Studies 2 Governance. So, General Studies Paper 2, as I have said earlier, comprises three units: the polity part, governance, international relations. So, the unit on governance, as I have seen from previous papers, carries a lot of marks. So, we spend more time on GS2 governance. Now, the question for discussion: the judiciary is seen as more executive minded than the executive itself. Discuss with reference to Article 356 and judicial activism, 150 words. Now, before we go into the discussion part, just a the basic discussion on the concepts. Now, there are three organs of government: legislature, executive, judiciary. The legislature makes laws, the executive implements laws, and the judiciary checks abuse of power, checks if any principles of natural justice are violated in lawmaking. It is very simple. The basic definitions you should know of the legislature, executive, and judiciary. And the constitutional framers clearly intended that each organ should not transgress or transpass into another organization's functions or into another organization's working. But now of late we have seen how the judiciary is seen as more executive minded than the executive itself. Thereby what I'm implying is how the judiciary is trying to act as a super executive. Now by executive I mean the political executive, that is the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, the permanent executive, that is the civil service. Now, after the legislature frames the law, the executive is in charge of implementation. Judiciary comes only when there is a gross violation or whether principles of natural justice are violated, only then the judiciary comes. Judiciary cannot suo moto step in and don the robes of the executive. Now, this particular question, we, as in other questions, we have a brief introduction. Then we speak of how Article 356 has been misused and what is this judicial intervention we are talking of. First, an introduction. Now, the authority to dismiss an elected government was incorporated in Section 93 of the Government of India Act 1935. The Government of India Act 1935. We have borrowed a large number of provisions from the Government of India Act 1935. It had a specific provision, Section 93, which gave the government power to remove a provincial government. But the Congress, which was spearheading the freedom struggle, opposed incorporation of this article, this particular section 93, which gave overriding powers to the central government to dismiss the provincial governments. So this was a feature of the Government of India Act 1935, which has been brought through the back door into the constitution. Now the constitutional makers insisted that this provision is necessary on the grounds of democracy, federalism, stability. On these grounds, it said that this provision is required. Dr. Ambedkar, in the debates of the Constituent Assembly, said this Article 356 is a dead letter provision and it will be imposed only in the rarest of circumstances. Another constitutional pundit, Dr. M. B. Kamath, opposed this, saying that insertion of Article 356 amounts to a surgical operation for a common cold. So, sufficient discussions took place. Then Article 356 came in the form of Emergency provisions, we have a chapter on emergency provisions. So Article 356 is there. Article 356 states that whenever the governor is satisfied that the administration of a state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the constitution, he can make a recommendation to the president for imposition of president's rule. Now this particular provision to invoke president's rule or article 356 has been imposed 125 times in the country since independence, and most of the time this has been on political considerations. The most classic example is in 1959 how the government used this provision to topple a communist government. 29 times it was used by Mrs. Gandhi on grounds of political stability, Article 356. So this Article 356 has belied the, like what shall I say, it has acted more to promote the interests of the political party in power, and it has been misused by the ruling parties, whichever party came to power, on the grounds of political stability. Now, what is this judicial intervention we are speaking of? In 1997, the Patna High Court observed that the governor's report on Article 356 was not conclusive. In 1997, instability in Bihar, the Patna High Court observed that Article 356, the report of the governor to the president, was not conclusive. The High Court said that it could also send the report to the president in this regard. So this is a very dangerous situation in which the judiciary is trying to don the role of the executive. You see the observations of the Patna High Court saying that the High Court could also send a report to the president regarding the law and order situation. Here, we see how the judiciary is trying to encroach into the domain of the executive. Come to 2020, the Andhra Pradesh High Court asked the state government to argue on the breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state. The Andhra Pradesh High Court, when responding to a petitioner who had filed a writ in the High Court saying that there is a breakdown of constitutional machinery in Andhra Pradesh, now the Andhra Pradesh High Court took up the issue for hearing and asked the government to substantiate whether the constitutional machinery is functioning or whether it is broken down. Fortunately, the decision of the Andhra High Court has been stayed by the Supreme Court. This is a dangerous precedence in which the, what shall I say, how Article 356 and judicial activism, this is a very dangerous precedence. This is a dangerous step in the strangulation of democracy, and it is not what the constitution intended. Surely the judiciary cannot come into the domain of the executive. An activist judiciary is neither good for the country nor for the judges. What happens if you have an activist judiciary? Once you have an activist judiciary, what will happen is the government will appoint compliant judges, judges who will toe the dictates of the government and who will be pro-government. This is also another disturbing factor. The independence of the judiciary will be threatened. Like you see the recommendations of the collegium on the transfer of judges. The way the proceedings are drafted, it looks like an executive order transferring IAS officers. Now, this particular question on judicial activism with reference to Article 356, you have to clearly show how the judiciary, how there has been judicial overreach. This question of judicial overreach is not what the constitution makers intended, and how this has clearly resulted in one organ of government becoming more powerful at the expense of the other. And you should also highlight in your answer that the activist judiciary, what is happening at present, it is not good for the country, in the sense that if you have an activist judiciary, you can always bring in persons of your choice to don the judiciary, and the active judiciary will only mean pro-government judges, which will affect the independence of the judiciary. So what I would like you to understand in this particular question is, you highlight, you start your answer by first noting the observations of the Constituent Assembly, how Dr. Ambedkar justified the inclusion of Article 356 as a dead letter by saying that it would be used as a rare, in the rarest of rare circumstances, how subsequently Article 356 found its way in the chapter on emergency provisions, how this has been used in political considerations nearly 125 times, and how this has been used by different parties which rule the center to justify their needs, to justify, to bring about their parties in the states. Finally, the second part of the answer, you speak of judicial activism with reference to Article 356. See the observations of the Bihar High Court, then the observations of the Andhra Pradesh High Court. Finally, you conclude by your answer by saying that judicial activism should not result in the judiciary growing at the expense of the executive. Judicial activism is good, no doubt, to check excesses of bureaucratic power, excesses of executive power, but judicial activism should not result in one organization growing at the expense of the other. And as I said, how the collegium, the working of the collegium, which is a separate issue by itself, how the working of the collegium has resulted in pro government judges being posted to important places, and how activism, judicial activism, results in the pro-planned judiciary towing the lines of the government, which is a serious threat to the independence of the judiciary itself. So this particular question is taken with reference to current events, the current developments. So this is a chapter on GS2 governance. This can also be utilized for political science, international relations, paper 1, section B. As I told you, a lot of commonalities are there between the political science part, paper 1B, and general studies, paper 2. So, an intelligent preparation would mean taking out topics which are common to both GS2 and PSIR. That way, you will be able to do a better job. Another final thing which I would like to advise the aspirants is writing practice every day. Try and answer one or two questions and get them evaluated daily, because you cannot expect miracles to happen on the day of the exam. Unless you have writing practice, you cannot develop the skill of writing for 150 words. The more you write, the more proficient you become, the more you get them evaluated by the competent faculty, you stand a better position than those who would want to go to the exam and do the writing and expect miracles to happen. So this is in brief a discussion on GS2 governance. Thank you.